We have the Developmental Trauma as Collective Intelligence Circling and Surrender Leadership Nights this Thursday at the Mirror Centre. And I just wanted to say a little about what we're going to be exploring. A good few years ago, we really found in the Circling and Surrender Leadership practice, which is about really being present in connection and trusting the deeper layers of connection to guide us into a deeper intimacy with ourselves and with others. And we saw on this exploration that we often come into contact with what could be called developmental trauma. So we did some intensive training with the NAM therapeutic training, and NAM, which is the neuroaffective relational model, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's an excellent training that really dives into and brings deep clarity to this way that when we grow up, we learn to survive as children, and we have these very intelligent ways to deal with our environment not meeting our basic needs, our needs of connection and attunement and trust, autonomy and love and sexuality. And we end up with these adaptive survival styles, which are almost like our personality, but it's not quite our personality, but it's ways we navigate, especially in connection, complexity and difficulty. And everyone has this challenge, so you might notice, especially in intimate relationships, times where you get withdrawn or you start needing attention, but you feel ashamed of the need to have the attention, or you might find yourself saying things that are pleasing or rejecting and you're not sure why you're doing it, or moments where you really distrust people, or you find everyone around you imagine they're all distrusting you, yet you don't even know that, but you're imagining it, and it's hard to stop imagining that. Also times where you lose your autonomy and you're working really hard to please other people and to try and do everything yourself, and you find yourself in these habitual patterns, and you can often sense it's not quite right, and it's not quite life affirming or the most alive way and creative way to act, but it's a way you've just learned to survive, and it's so deep. And there's also this love sexuality split where it's hard to be both in your sexuality and in your loving heart-centered space, or the opposite way around. Like when you're in your heart-centered space with someone, you lose contact with your sexuality. And there's all these ways we've grown up around these really core themes that play out in our connections. Circling surrendered leadership is not a therapeutic paradigm, so we're not coming into connection to work with each other therapeutically and becoming an expert of someone's experiences. We're actually coming together as adults in this world, exploring what's here together and trusting from a present-based, awareness-based way of showing up, which the practice trains us in and guides us in. How can we navigate these developmental survival strategies that we've learned as children, and how can we discover how they're working in our unconscious or subconscious? How can we get underneath to the real aliveness and our essence that comes through, or our deeper being? We've all had those moments where we realize we've come through a kind of survival way or strategy with a loved one or someone, and we suddenly have all this creative energy or these feelings that feel more grounded and more call it life force. So to navigating to that's not always easy. So in the practice, we've integrated this great knowledge from Nam, and we're now using it in this interconnected way through like adults exploring presence together. We're not doing therapy on each other, and what we discovered in this way is why we don't call it developmental trauma, we call it connection intelligence, because when we relate to our experience as a in the moment immediate intelligence, we start to see that like a deeper survival is often a sensation or a very intelligent way our being has adapted to what we needed, and it guides us to deeper places in us, and it's actually an intelligence. So sometimes when we withdraw and we suddenly become shamed, it's easy to then shame the shame and to feel like it's not good, and we have to do a practice to get through it, or we have to breathe through it, or we have to leave. But actually we find if you can start to recognize what's happening and be present and trust it as an intelligence, it starts to guide, and there's actually a lot of intimacy and wisdom actually we can gain from these childlike survival strategies we've had, and a lot of innocence. So this night will be about exploring all that and ways to do that, and a little bit more knowledge around what this is and what it means and how to recognize it. So yeah, if you feel drawn to explore that and come and see what circling and surrender leadership's all about, and how we can use it to explore this connection intelligence of developmental trauma, come to the Mirror Centre this Thursday at 7 p.m. and we finish at 9:30.